Hi everyone, it's been a while since I made a video, but there's a lot of exciting things going on here with Final Strike, including a second online tournament. We're basically kind of Lane, I should say, is running a whole Final Strike online tournament in the Discord again, using a brand new set of weapons. And what I'm going to be doing today is kind of giving you my tier list of what I think are really strong, what are SABCs, and so forth. We're just gonna walk through things. I know it's getting kind of crazy. It's coming up on 1 year since we last funded, and I know it's not always the most exciting thing to have to announce that we're a little bit behind on the manufacturing side of things because life happens. I've had several weddings to have to attend this past month, and it's just life is busy. But I promise you, we're still making progress on the game, and the more that Lane creates content, the more excited our community is growing. So I'm just happy to do this. Make some content, and let's just jump right in. We're gonna start with some of the basics, of course. I will say Magic Hammer. You all know Magic Hammer. It is S tier for being the best, the initial way to do the thing that in the game, which is forge weapons, of course, to make better weapons. So, to give you a preview of the video, just run down. This is not a normal video that we would make for like introducing you to the game, because we're gonna talk about some meta, the discussion, the strategy behind everything. So, I'm just gonna keep going. Short sword. Short sword is A tier because, of course, in the game of Final Strike, which dropping weapons means you drop more weapons. But it is not always the game when you play. It's very useful. Pike. Everyone hates Pike because it's blatantly like the do nothing card. But of course, every 4 points of damage you deal 1 blood. So Pike is good point value, but it's not as good as the Battle Axe, which is of course when gained. Go straight to your hand. Battle Axe 4 damage is such a clinch number because in the game of Final Strike, whoever deals the final strike gets the most points. And being able to deal more damage than your opponents puts you in a position of strength. And that's going to be where having a lot of 4s is going to be very important. Also keeping track of if your opponent has a 4 in their hand or what their damage cap is. And that's going to be something that all these cards have so much swing between how much damage a player can do on their turn, which is intrinsically fun part about Final is figuring out positioning yourself in the right place so that you can deal damage so that you can earn points, but also not dealing too much damage so that you put yourself in a position where your opponent can do it. Let's just keep going. Claymore! Claymore when gain drop your hand. So we're already evolving. This is a bronze 4 here. So versus the Battle Axe being the standard bronze 4, we're going into Claymore territory, which is drop your whole hand, which is has a huge dramatic play with other combo pieces. It is, unfortunately for me, a B tier, which is still good. No, I'm gonna drop it down. B tier is still good. It has a lot of implications for refreshing your hand, triggering shuffle effect. You need to cause shuffle things to happen. But it is very much it is just still a good solid bronze 4. It is not as good as Battle Axe, just because having it ready right away is a big deal for positioning. Crossbow is A tier. I love crossbow. I love the idea of being able to like on game just poke a monster, or has huge forging implications where you can forge multiple cards on a turn. Not even getting to spells. Spells is a huge deal as its own thing. But like being able to deal indirect damage and even surprise opponents by being able to like tide hammers and stuff like that, causing surprise damage, even getting around different type of monster evasion. Crossbow is solid. Super solid. What else do we have next? We have Crash Hammer. Oh my god. Crash Hammer is such a weird thing. I think it's so strong at Silver 1. That's my thought. So, when played, you forge another card. Granted, it is doing the good thing that lets you forge diagonally. I guess in the mirror I have to go down this way. But going down in that direction, then you get better cards, of course, good for you. So I think one of the best things about this Crash Hammer is that right away, even on the field, you activate gain damage to one screen. Combos really well, is really S tier. I think a lot of the forging factors you'll hear from me is that forging is like the namesake of the game. That's what makes it such as Fused Hammer. Fused Hammer, I'm gonna put into another S tier because all the hammers in my mind are some of the most fun aspects of the game. Because when you get them, they literally open up your branching, how fast and how customizable you can make it. That's just my opinion. I love hammers. Prospector's pick is so great. Okay, invoking is a new mechanic that if you haven't been watching haven't been reading some of the actual cards revealing, Invoking says if this is a card in your field, you may basically tap it, exhaust, what is it, quest. There's so many other words for it. In our world, we're using the word develop. To destroy a card in 50. This has huge mix potential, which is what the current tournament is about, is mixing up cards together, and then you're revealing the top card pile. Invoking a card destroys the top card of that pile, and that has implications, of course, revealing the card underneath it, or even down the road, we'll be introducing other cards that attack, like, will do things to the smithy. So being able to destroy a card of the smithy to reveal new stuff or dig deeper effectively is really good. On top of, again, I love hammers being diagonal and really neat. This one particularly is good for the current tournament, which is a mixed smithy. But I unfortunately have to give this a B because it's not as good as the other hammers, including Shadow Hammer, which is straight up S tier. Playing Forging diagonally and just offering drop combos with how frequently you can shuffle cards, dropping cards refuels your hand, and being able to like refuel your hand, causing shuffle triggers, meaning that you can drop more cards faster, or you would want to drop cards faster. This means you get to trigger basically do the thing that your deck wants to do. Great combo potential piece. Sledgehammer is very interesting. It is a secret 4. It is only strictly to minions, of course. It means it's not a thing for bosses. This tells you that this is like, I am focused on forging, but while forging, I'm still netting point values. So while it's not very high combo, per turn, you are doing two things. You're forging a deck, which making it better, getting better cards, but also at the same time, you're getting point value per turn. So you're generating, if you play a Sledgehammer every single turn, even if you don't get all the final strikes, or any, you can still net a high point value at the end of the game, which may or may not be game breaking, but I do love Sledgehammer. Putting that as tier. Huge fan. Burning Blade. Oh gosh, Burning Blade. So when you field, well, this is card again is sitting in front of you. When you attack it through your first straight card, you drop a card. I will give this a B, because this is a combo piece card. It doesn't do much on its own, but it's just like kind of an enabler, which is still good, mind you. Flashing Steel, in its current iteration, is also B. It is literally like it's a self combo card, which makes it really good. I want to put it into A, but I've seen the other versions of this where it's deal 1 damage to any target, and that's an older version of Flashing Steel. That one is an A or S tier, but because of those nerfs, it's okay. It is where it needs to be, though. I will say this is where Flashing Steel. I think it's like the epitome of a solid Silver 2. It literally improves what the 2 row likes to do, which is drop cards, tend to drop cards. But it lets you drop 2. It is a force effect, which of course causes it to trigger its own stuff, which is again I think a really strong effect. Bounty Tracker has high combo potential, but I give it a B again. It is a card that wants you to again activate gained effects when played, activate gained effect, including itself. Which again is self-comboing, very, very good. It teaches you how to play the game, teaches you how to think outside of your box. But again, by itself, it is a trap. You think Bounty Tracker is good, but what you really need is Bounty Tracker plus something else. The Harvest Blade. Okay, so how many before? Oh, okay. This is a card that is a good late game card. Because granted, you get to drop your cards, which is the improvement of the Silver 2, or base 2, Bronze 2. But being able to forge it, you may. If you play a weapon, you may forge it into Harvest Blade. So, rephrasing, whenever you play a card, you may forge that card into Harvest Blade, which is great, because there are other effects that may come into play, perhaps, about triggering when you forge a card, or triggering whenever you gain a card, and so on and so forth. So this has high combo potential, but as it currently stands, I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's very good. It is not as bad as a Pike, which literally does nothing. But it is. This has implications. It has great design space, which we'll talk about later with the other cards. Such as Night Fang. So Night Fang, we talked about point value stuff like that, like the Sledgehammer being excellent point value when playing it. The thing about Night Fang though is that it does take it from the supply, which doesn't actually deal that much damage to the enemy, so it keeps you in a good position. It's slightly more finesse required versus the Sledgehammer being just brute points and well, basically has that inflexibility, whereas Nightfang has that ability to again deal extra damage, but again draw some cards, which is again speeding up the deck, speeding up your deck, speeding up your engine. It's a great thing for Final Strike, or like a great way to learn how to play Final Strike is timing your shuffle, timing how fast you draw. But like they say, not to naysay the other strategies that promote playing slow cards. Nightfang I'm a fan of, but it is still just as different. Okay, Bloodstone tried it. Cleave is great. I'm a big fan of Cleave as a mechanic. You may exchange 8 blood for 3 glory is huge. This basically, if you play Final Strike, you know that every 4 points of blood is equal to 1 glory. So being able to exchange 8 for 3 is incredibly strong because that basically nets you a full extra point without having to do much. The fact that it's also cleaves means you also get a high pool of blood very, very easily without needing to do much extra effort. But this is the fun part of Bloodstone. I'm going to put Bloodstone Trident in A tier because it has it forces your opponents to interact with you in an interesting way to say, how can I keep you up at 8 blood, or how can I force you to shuffle faster in a way that makes you not be able to activate this effect, and you yourself as a player all of a sudden have to shift your thought space. And I love that about cards that you see and you all of a sudden like, oh, I do want to play this right away because I want to net as much blood as possible, or I need to time my opportunity to play this to net as much blood as possible. And then shuffling it means you have to time it to where you play it, you have 8 blood, and you shuffle it right away, and once swift turn before anyone can stop you is so opportune that you have to be planning so far ahead to kind of figure that out. And that's what I love about Bloodstone Trident. It creates fun play space between you and your opponents. Dragonfang, okay, I'm gonna be real. Dragonfang, I want to put in D tier because it does a lot of fun things, such as I'll put in C because it's still better than what officially is up. Dragonfang does a lot of cool things, such as explain great game mechanics, such as when you gain a card, this thing happens. It is only when you gained it versus its played ability when you play things with your hand. This is a great tutorial card also because it teaches you between like bronze, silver, and gold. And this card, it just gives you, it makes players ask those questions, and that is what I love about Dragon. It teaches people how to play the game. It starts answering things about how you interact with the city itself. And then when you gain it, it does cool things. Like, it is just a fun thing. Plus, huge blow-up potential where you can, if you can gain multiple cards in a turn, just stacking those gain effects is very fun. And I love it when players like delve into that comboing potential. Okay, let's talk about Firestarter. The card to the right of Firestarter has plus 2, which means when you play attack after Firestarter, it deals 2 extra damage to each minion than its target. Cleave is cool. Forcing your players to have to play the cards in a row in order is not the most cool design space, but this has great implications. Because in the world of where you can invoke a card to do things, or in a world where you can force yourself to have to play and not shuffle and things like that. Plus, this is also a great way to enable a high power effect at such an early level, because you start with pikes, so you can forge up into Firestarter, and that means the next card that you play upwise, depending on how you play your cards and sequence them, can immediately have this effect. It's very cool. But it's just a thing. It's like it's a very weird place. It's like, oh, I now have to pay attention to ordering my field. It is a weird thing to explain to players, but I will say it has cool design space. I'm gonna give it a C still, because I'm not a fan of like posting. But granted, the field is a different aspect where we're teaching players that your discard pile matters. It's effectively a discard pile, but it matters. We were, Lane and I had like discussed and debated on what's the important part of like how do you explain it, how do you explain the discard pile, how do you explain it in the field, and this is where like it opens up this effect, and that it tells a story, which is why we ended up landing on what a field card is. Glimmer Point! Oh, we're talking a lot about field effects here. Glimmer Point says, cleave equals the number of field cards on field abilities on other cards in your field. So, of course, in this particular case, previous field cards would be great. And field, at the start of your turn, you may invoke one of your choice. Again, has good combo potential, but in a vacuum, not very good. I'm gonna put it I'm gonna put it in D, because this card, depending on the board, depending on what you need to do, Glimmer Point doesn't do much. And it this card by itself does nothing, and that's a hard part. That's a hard part to get. But putting it with all the other cards is where it shines, and I get that. But someone is gonna forge into a Gamefound right away, and then be upset because it doesn't do anything cool right away. And that's gonna be a thing. Once we start talking about spells, though, okay, I take back this. I'm gonna move it up to C, because it does do more things than because what if you, in the world where you're playing spells, spells of course being a separate deck that you have that are one time at max that you get to use whenever you cast a spell. When you cast a spell, you basically just cast the next spell on that line. And it says you may destroy the spell. And then you may, again, start trying to destroy a spell, then forge a card that lets you cast a spell, or then you can now play a card that makes you cast a spell, which you can now interact with the spell line, which is great. That's what Gamefound is meant to do. I don't think it's any stronger than it does. I don't think it deserves to be stronger than this. Runic Javelin. Okay, Runic Javelin is an interesting point of play. Where dropping cards off the top of your deck has cool combo potential. Casting spells is actually where the strength I feel comes with this card. The surprise drop is you just basically gambling, and I'm a huge gambler, so I'm not opposed to playing the Runic Javelin. But I will still just do this because I don't think it's better than any of that. Do you want a Runic Javelin or like is a Dragonflame more exciting? Or is that more exciting than like the blood? What's the blood type? This until you finish shuffle gain 8 shuffle gain points. You know, like the Runic Javelin itself is not as cool as the other. But it has cool potential, and I'm not a fan of it. Staff of Winds is very different. Staff of Winds, I'm gonna put in B tier because I also value the shuffle. When you drop this card, drop any number of other cards. Basically, being able to refill your hand, or optionally being able to basically stack your deck. In the world where like you have a very highly effective deck, being able to immediately enter your hand and draw your better weapons is so powerful. So you can basically say, okay, by playing some sort of short sword or any of the solid 2 that make you drop a card, you get to redraw your full hand or keep your powerful combo cards or set up your field in a way that makes it like Staff of Winds is a big part of the enabler in the Silver 3, and it's also very easily accessible. Great. Vine Spear. Vine Spear is A tier because of Flex. Flex. Oh, what? Oh, I didn't actually do that. Vine Spear goes to A. Flex is a great ability because it lets you position yourself by giving you the ability to like set your target of damage while still getting its intended effect, which is shuffle a card for field to its owner deck, which is great. Again, high design space. Because of course in a 2v2, when you're playing a 4-player game, you play 2 teams, you can set your ally up, or ruin the plans of one of your opponents by forcing them to shuffle a particular card they wanted in their field at that time. And a lot of effects are must versus may, so things like Flashing Steel won't have a huge impact, but if you can flex up Vine Spear and then shuffle your allies Flashing Steel, you can deal 5 damage in a turn. Boom! Final Strike's unlocked right there by just being able to interact with 5 points, or being able to just deal more than 4 damage at a turn. Gives you interactive player creativity, and I love that. Vine Spear is a easy A tier. I won't put it to S because again, I'm just a huge fan of the hammers. The hammers are they're just the coolest part of the game. I love forging this game. Shut up, Old Spice. I'm just kidding. Bold Scythe is S tier. It is probably one of the coolest cards that help break the game in a fun and interesting way. Whereas it is a Silver 4, which means you do want to play it because it's a high impact card. Clicking 1 means you do a lot of damage. You can end up to like 8 blood in 1 turn by just playing Bold Scythe at an opportune time, like versus Firework tracks. But gaining a Bone Minion, everyone asks questions about what a Bone Minion does, and of course, for those of you who don't know, a Bone Minion is a minion that you create, has 4 blood, that can only be damaged or targeted. And that's what makes Bone Minion so fun. Bone Minion helps create a delay space, like being able to deal 0 damage to an enemy or basically pass a turn is so game breaking in the right ways, because it means that you have a high personal, like players who value stall or value control decks we'll see the immediate value of having a minion that only you can attack that your opponents can't. And that's where Bullseye comes into play. It creates a fun thought process. It makes your opponent like, oh, if I have a bow minion you don't, that means you always have to interact with the board, and I can choose to opt out if I really want. And that's, again, great for the blue players in the world. Enjoy it. Execution Axe is also S tier. Execution Axe I'm a huge fan because of its ability to just net extra points. Because of course, whenever Execution Axe kills a monster, you get a glory. That includes its own ability when dropped or when played. So, this card rewards you for doing the thing. It is kind of a win more card, but it is such a good waste space because you feel the player who gets Execution Axe and gets it and then plays it and effectively gets the extra point off of it has like a ooh, the person did the thing, and I love that moment. I love that moment of the player being like, oh, he did the thing. I should probably be counting better, or I should be wanting to position myself better. And I love that. I love that feeling that Execution Axe invites to the table when players get that extra glory. Okay. Haunted War Axe is the weird thing for me that I don't. Okay, so while it's in the smithy, it's a minion that starts with 6. When you kill it, you gain it there. It allows you to stall things and allows you to create weird spaces. It has some questionable stuff, such as while being also a minion, the wording means that you can still gain it if you wanted to, right? Because if it's a minion and a weapon, you can still gain it as a weapon. But if you can still attack it, that creates a little bit of a weirdness about how you position things. And that's just some rules laundering. It just invites some clarification that's needed to the game. It is still very cool because the drop effect is just do 1 damage to the monster. And again, like I said, interacting with the game's mechanics, promoting the player to interact with the game's mechanics is lots of fun. I will still put you at a B tier because you're still not as cool as the other things in my mind. But Haunted War Axe does ask cool questions to the game, but it does complicate the teaching. Which is why I would not put it in the first play. I would definitely not use it in a first player playthrough. Skylens is a design I promoted, but I don't think it's S. I will put it to A. This is the thing about Skylens: if you gain it, it goes to your hand. That's a huge buff to the card. But the idea is that when you set it aside next to its target instead of attacking immediately, and then at the start of your next turn, you effectively jump up in the air and then skewer a monster for a large part of damage and just end your turn. You don't have a option to do this. You have the option not to do this, but it does a lot of fun space, such as it enables you to deal 0 damage in a turn, but it also threatens a board and allows you to deal up to 7 damage, which gives all the other players at the table an opportunity to either lead into it, mess with the monster, and it while very strong as a card, it does create so many different playboard states, and I love that about this game. So like, the amount of predictability of a player having these cards in their hand versus what the board looks like makes it so that every weapon situationally has a huge, basically, an infinite design space, infinite amount of occurrences you come into, and it feels like, and we discussed this early in the design space. It's like this game will, at the highest level, will come down to like who can be the best test player who memorizes all these different situations and knows what the best out is, if that makes sense. Like knowing your outs, knowing how to play in your current position, how to reposition yourself, or points based on like how much blood is on each minion or monster. That's where like the Skylance really shines. It's like, like a Skylance is big boss for 7 damage, knowing that you can't kill it because you can't do 7 damage, which means that in like a competitive scene, like do I just battle axe those monsters anyway, so you get the final strike, but I can limit the amount of blood that you need, that you get out of it? Or if I know you're dealing 7 damage, can I position myself in next turn to like, okay, I will just now cleave everything for a lot of damage, knowing that next turn I can just cleave again, because you're definitely getting that kill, but you're definitely not going to be able to speed the board like in a way that you net more points than your opponent does because they Skylance a specific minion and not such and such. Yeah, cool stuff. Okay, Storm Anchor. Casting spells is fun. Refilling your hand and drop a card is the bomb dignity. I'm gonna put this at 8. Waning Moon. When you refill your hand, refill the 7 cards. Okay, this card, a little bonkers, because refilling the 7 cards is a in the base game. Your maximum your starting hand size is 5 cards. So when at the end of your turn you always refill to 5. This card breaks that, and that makes your shuffling effect. This elongates your field effects too, because you're basically not needing to shuffle as much because your hand is bigger. It also allows you to break combo limits, such as when you drop cards, right? You're only limited to the amount of cards you have in your hand. Making it so you can build up to 7 means you can drop more cards at once, unlocking bigger bomb combos. But it is by itself not a great card. I do give you to see. It has a high potential, but it is not a good thing by itself. Cavalry Hammer. I think this was Patrick's. My brother Patrick. You met him. Cool guy. Great designer in many regards. I do put Cavalry Hammer at A because the previous version also allowed you to deal damage, which is basically gave it more flexibility. This is a buffed version of it though that says when you gain this card, you may go to your hand. It doesn't go to S because it just has a slight. Oh God, I don't know. I feel like this card has seen so many different layers of power because like in this current version, it's incredible forge flexibility because you're of course in the joke if you haven't realized what this card can do is that it jumps like a knight, which means that you don't go little L shapes and stuff like that. Which means you have huge forge flexibility. It opens up so much forging space and deck building space that can be very complicated, can be very overwhelming. But then its other version that allowed you to drop it and deal damage gave it end game flexibility, which made that version that's the S tier version of that card. Is because it A lets you forge better, and then end game lets you deal damage as you drop it. Just phenomenal card. Magma Hammer. Okay, Magma Hammer, I don't think deserves to be a gold. I think this would be a great silver one. Gold, of course, being me, like, again, I'm like many minutes into this video, but it's always bronze, silver, then gold, meaning that in order to get to a gold one, you have to forge at least 2 points upwards. And this has a huge potential because this card immediately makes a card go from bronze to gold, which is very powerful, and at the field of your turn, you get to forge a bronze card over to the right. So it has lots of like immediate emergent forging powers, but I don't know. I think this is okay, back up. I said that it belongs to silver one, but I would still nerf this ability part of it, which is the forge up to. I think when played, it could be forging up. It could be like normal forging up, down, left, right versus double up. But I think putting this constant being able to forge a bronze to the right, being unlocked at such a I mean, it's a high dedication play, to put at this. I don't know. It's such a powerful effect that I understand. I do understand that you should put this at gold one. The part of me just wants to put it at silver one because it builds it invites such a fun part of the game to be like, okay, passively I'm able to improve my deck, but I don't have control of that variation. Yeah, and that's where I understand why the play side of it is very, very limited because going up 2 ranks is going from bronze to gold is such a powerful card to have just in your deck cycling through. And then no, in its current iteration, it does deserve to stay at a gold one for sure. But I would take these abilities, slightly diminish them. Excuse me, and then put it down to silver one, so like players can interact with it a little bit faster, if you will. I will put this at an A though. It is very, very strong, but it's not quite game breaking as the way I've seen some of the other cards. It is very strong. I will not do this. Mechanism Hammer. Mechanism Hammer is oh gosh, I'm gonna quick scroll down here and delete this one. Delete rep. Because I'm walking through the entire list here. Okay, so Mechanism Hammer. Choose a smithy pile, forge all cards in that. This is broken. It breaks a lot of the game's initial mechanics because again, stacking a lot of gain effects at once creates huge turns, which you've seen so many of the on gain effects deal damage cards already. Not even implying all the other gain a card, cast a spell, so on and so forth. The wording of this card has been such a weird thing to explain to players. And so when you say forge your smithy pile and then forge all cards, this is say all cards in your field from that pile. Oh yeah, it says okay, forge all cards from that pile in your field, and that's like it's the saying the card pile is basically targeting a rank and strength. So finding the right wording for this card has been really tricky. But once players figure it out, they realize how powerful it is because it gives you the ultimate flexibility to just turn. You have to position your field in the right way, and you are incredibly rewarded because you can get up to 3 forges off this play in multiple directions. Going diagonal, of course, you get like the basic ability of a magic hammer twice, so you can get like up to 6 times. Up to 6 forging point values at once based on how you position this card. And that's a huge turn. It's just that's getting so much value. Okay, so this is Stormhammer. Welcome to Stormhammer, one of the best hammer cards. I'm putting you in S. Because it does the thing that you want to do, and then gives you late game power because you deal damage to any number to each monster. The big buff about this is that it is a must, not a may, so you can get punished for it, but it just does the thing the game wants to do: deal damage to monsters, make your deck better. That's it. Like there's nothing left to say about stuff. Okay, Arkhammer. Arkhammer. Excuse me. Arkhammer having the flexibility to literally ability to flex. Dealing 0 damage in a turn is very powerful. Stalling is not a bad thing, with the detriment of it slowing down the game, and this game already kind of a lengthier game taking like 45 minutes or more, depending on how your table likes to play. If you guys play loose and fast, you guys can get this done in under 45, no problem. Playing with experienced players, though, makes it so that you sit down and you think and you're strategizing at a higher level. Makes this card detrimental in that regard. Of course, being able to forge up to 2 other cards in your field and forge them, phenomenal. Putting you in S. Go ahead, get in there. Cool. Ghostblade. Ghostblade is probably hasn't changed over its design. I don't know if Lane has seen other iterations of this, but in its ability of just draw a card, drop a number of cards, self-fulfilling, and then its late game ability of dealing damage into number of monsters. Thanks, me. Perfected Blade S tier. I don't know how much more I need to say. This card just does everything. this card being able to do everything makes this super just like customizable. Like build your own card is such a fun card. Like just love it. Sword of Sorcery. Okay. Spells. I have a weird part about spells because there's such a nuanced board state thing that it creates a lot of times like I need to pause, I need to look at a thing. It's slowing down the game is why I dislike its particular iteration right now. Casting a spell from the trash, very cool. Recursion, very powerful. Like in any game, being able to recur something from the graveyard just very strong. it opens up to a lot of potential for surprises and stuff like that, which is great. You know, like great for like high moments of excitement, but people being caught off guard. Like there's a measurement of like fun between the two play spaces. I will give it an A because it is very powerful. But I have design implications which I feel like are detrimental to what could be a bad player experience of the game. But again, you know, a player having a good time shouldn't devalue a player having a bad time because that's how games intrinsically work. There's a winner and a loser. That is unfortunate about life. Okay. Orbital Dagger. Okay, Orbital Dagger is phenomenal in the world of Secret Tactics. Damage from this card to monsters at or above starting health is increased by 6. Your other cards are stupid. This being able to snipe down monsters that are naturally starting at 4 or actually starting at 5 or 6 health makes this Orbital Dagger very cool. It being very situational, it does demerit it a little bit. But it is still very cool. I love Orbital Dagger at its current iteration here. There's some numbers that I want to play around with, but I can't fault it for not being a very exciting card. This is a card you can build a deck around immediately. Has immediate impact on what you're doing. Has an immediate impact on how your opponents think about you and your turns. You're like, does he have the dagger? Shall I read this full health monster at 6? No. It's great. A tier. Okay, Arcane Chancellery. We talked about gain effect being able to stack them being very powerful. Cool stuff. Invoking. When monsters are created, you may invoke this card on your field to you may invoke a card in your field with a gain ability to deal damage to it. This includes itself. This includes any other gain card you have in your ability. So this invites a little bit of a ruling question because when a monster is created, you may invoke a single card to deal damage. It doesn't. I could see the ruling or the way it's worded. You can invoke multiple game cards to do 2 damage to blow up a monster, right? Like, monster created, tap, invoke 4 cards, 8 damage, boom, monster minion is dead. This also, of course, impacts bosses, which has like again huge fun design space to go to bosses and create. You be like, boop, tap, explodes. And within the answering of that first question. But I will say has great impact immediately when you get it. Has cool, very fun design space. We're putting it in A tier. Archmage stat. Gain 2 damage. Drop, cast his next spell. This itself, by itself, is not the most exciting. But being able to combo multiple drops and being able to cast and really dig deep for spells is very strong. But I will put it in B because it doesn't have as big a game breaking impact because of the randomness of the spells, but also like it causes a lot of time. Like you yourself have to think and pause and wait and strategize around how spells are coming out. Which is why this is extra content for those of you who are looking forward to post game, like post that first game. The depth of this game just goes. uh, Let's talk about Bone Shaker. When Bloodthirst, of course, when this deals damage, you gain that much extra blood, which means if you play this, you gain 6 blood for your turn. You just do damage to your target, you gain 3 for the market. Phenomenal. Shuffles. If there's no other shuffle in the field, deal 3 damage to monster is such a huge timing reward for this game, for this specific card, that it is phenomenally situational, but it's in itself getting you extra blood per turn is why you would want to play this. And then forcing comboing it with other players with like things like Vine Spear makes Bone Shaker again just incredibly fun to play with because of the way positioning happens. And even you yourself, you can interact with your opponent's Bone Shaker by playing or dropping any of your shuffle cards as well to mess up the trigger, which makes this really fun. Bone Shaker goes to S tier. Wait, when I put it B tier? Oh no, Bone Shaker, you go to S tier. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to put you in B tier. What did I miss it? Did I miss the card symbol? I think I did this. Okay, no. I like Bone Shaker at S tier. For all the implications it has in terms of gameplay. It makes players think about your turn, but not in an overly complicated way like spells. Spells require you to do a lot of thinking. Bone Shaker just says if I can interact with this by just ruining your shuffle by playing a shuffle ability in the field, phenomenal. Like just very easy yes no check. Cooling Staff. All right, Cooling Staff, you go to C. You are average at best because it implies you're in a position to do many fun things, not by itself. Is the answer. But that's why I put it in C tier. It is not a thing that does good things by itself. If it could do fun, and okay, any number of cards from your field into your deck. So for any number of cards from your field, it is self-containing. If it interacted with opponents, that would make it super strong, but it also would have a lot of field value. And I think that's where Cooling Staff is like in the perfect space. Vine Spear specifically targeting a card in the field is great. Cooling Staff doing like all cards or any number of cards from a player's field and so forth would be terrible. But this is why Cooling Staff, for you as a player, if you're picking Cooling Staff, you're building a deck around a specific number of cards and correlating around that strategy, which is, again, great fun design space. A very, very solitaire type card. But I'm only giving you a C because it promotes only like self-engine building. It doesn't, like, I don't know. I'm not looking at talking about like magic, like eating your bread, having like bombs, evasions, and so forth. Growing stuff itself just doesn't overly excite me by having it. And then also players I see players get like not necessarily trapped, but forging Cooling Staff first and not having a good time because they fall behind because other players get the cool parts and then they get one Cooling Staff and then their engine's built and they've done a lot of cool things getting there. getting the Quelling Staff first. I've seen players like fall into that trap right away. Like, alright, you gotta get the cool stuff first, then get a Quelling Staff, then your deck. But that's not the Quelling Staff's fault, by all means. It's not the player's fault too. If you're a new player, trying to go into this, may have field applications. So I think there's some some things to be taught about Final Strike when working about forging a deck. Cycle Staff, same deal. Putting in C. you think Cycle Staff does cool things right away? It doesn't. It does cool things after you've built it. Pyro Staff, opposite end. S tier. Cycle Staff, Pyro Staff does all the things right away. Pyro Staff, when gained, doesn't do anything, but impacts your entire board state. It has so many implications about just constantly dealing damage, having repercussions about every single weapon you play, plus Pyro Staff. Stacking Pyro Staffs themselves just gives you more power. You're just basically whipping flame everywhere. And it's just a good card. It's just a good, fun card, guys. I'm sorry. It is a good time. Stack Pyro Staff. It's a good time. Okay, so let's talk about Ashman. This is bananas. This card is too good for its own regard. I'm gonna put you in. I deleted the no opinion. I don't know. Ashmouth is too strong a card. Being able to field Invoke it and deal an extra damage, extra 4 damage, makes it way too good. I want to put it in like it's broken in its own tier of like. I'm not saying it's unfun. I'm not saying it's not fun to do this thing. I'm just saying that this card is too good to be able to. We're not ready for the world where players can play 2 weapons yet at Final Strike. In my mind, I think Ashmouth is just too strong. I really do. But of course, when you read it, it says when you kill a monster, forge a card in the field. That's like such a win more. And when it's in your field, you may invoke Ashmouth by when you have 12 more blood, do the thing. Very strong. It's just. Yes, I get it. It's a gold 4. The epitome of the strongest things on your board. You only generally get 1 or 2 of them at the end of the game because it costs so many forging points to get into over the course of the game. That, yeah, I get it. It's good, and it deserves to be the power. I love gold 4s. I love that. I love the gold 4 being the card that you base. Like you play like this. It's huge. It has the biggest impact in the game, and Ashmouth does that. I just think it does it too good. I think it's too much. Yeah, I think it's too much. Okay. The same deal with Devour. Same deal with Devour. Devour having Bloodthirst does not break it. Excuse me. Devour having this effect on the field, being the rightmost, and breaking everything and causing everything to stall out. Does like I am not a blue player. I don't like control magic. It's not me. It just isn't. I will deservingly give Devour. I think I'll put it in A. I put it in B. I'm like Naya as a player, so I don't like control magic, but I do understand Devour has a huge gameplay impact, and I do appreciate how shocking it is to like just completely disrupt a player's turn by just putting it on the table. And it's very, very cool, and it has huge counterplay interactions. I'm like, yes, it's such a strong thing, but it's like, oh, it just, I can't put that blue magic in S tier. I can't do it. It's not within me. Okay, Galvanic Axe, it's pretty sweet. When gaining cards, may invoke Galvanic Axe, activate that card's played abilities. This is the right level of 2 cards a turn. Get its abilities. You're not overwhelming bunch of damage on a turn generally. You're just getting sweet field effect. Okay? Also, it's flexibility. Shuffling, you may evoke Galvanic Axe to do damage to most damage turn. That is cool. This is an appropriate amount of like interaction with card abilities, and this card itself has great flexibility. That means this card, obviously, gets S tier for me. Just super powerful, not overly bearing, and it's like complicated to like the depth of like, oh, I can do one of these cool things. What I do with my turn makes it so it's really hard for players to like opponents like strategize, because you can sneakily do 4 damage to a monster, invoke this speed, you shuffle it, and basically get 2 minion Final Strike. No, Leviathan Claw. Also, oh, okay. Splitting up damage is what makes this card's abilities so good, and I think that's what makes Leviathan Claw. Um, I will put you in A. I know this feels a little bad for me because I love the Leviathan Claw being a card that has um, so much, like, again, I love Gold Force being the card that impacts the table space or it impacts the board at such a high level. Its shuffle effect being targeted because it's any number of different monsters, meaning you could like basically snipe and pinpoint and position yourself perfectly, is why I think Leviathan Claw is strong. Not only can you split up that damage, but you can also split up its shuffle damage. It's just really strong in that role. I just don't think it's as powerful as all the things that do in S tier, which are a majority of the hands. Flagathon. Flagathon. I've been burnt by Flagathon too many times because its start of the turn ability is not a May, and that's of course has had great game breaking effects. I put you in A because you are very simple to explain, very simple to teach a player to play. This is definitely one of the cards that you put in base games to teach players. It unlocks the potential for 5 damage, and that's really powerful too. Especially because knowing that your opponent's it leads into how the game is played, which what makes Flagathon so great. It teaches you positioning, it teaches you forethought, like looking forward ahead turns. Because if you get bit by it, like I have many times, it's like, oh, I miscalculated. That's my fault. Or I calculated for something, then you did something that I wasn't expecting. I got punished for it. That's what happens. That's the game. That's what Final Strike calls. So I love Flagathon for that. Okay, Starfall is pretty bomb diggity because not only is it just like an improved version of like drop cast a spell, it does a lot of things. It has huge gained impact. When you gain it, you deal up to 6 damage on the board. It has huge implications for different types of blood leads. And then, again, we've talked about many different design spaces about like future expansions and stuff. That Bladeness, again, has been churning out so much fun content that you should engage with by joining us on Discord. But Starfall by itself isn't the most exciting thing. It is a great splashy card. When you gain it, it feels really good to deal 6 damage. It feels really good to set up and cast spells because it allows you to shuffle through and do things because you're probably comboing with a bunch of like upgraded 2s that makes you drop cards. So that's Starfall is fun. I don't think it's stronger than it. Yeah, that's pretty much it, folks. Phalanx Charger? Oh, there's other stuff too. Oh, this is oh my god, spoilers. Panda abilities. This is the reward for you having watched through the whole video. Thank you so much for walking through my tier. Let me speak through my tier list here. But Phalanx Charger is basically a discussion that was happening in the Discord, and it's basically forecasted magic. You do a thing, you may reveal Phalanx Charger, you get extra effect off of it, and it's fun. I think this particular thing is like it's relevant toward a lot of what Lane had originally proposed a long time ago with like class abilities and like being able to build your own character. That's what hand cards do. Hand cards are like, oh, like I'm building my deck flavorfully, versus just building my deck for cool things. Like this is adding like little splashes of like, oh, I'm rewarding myself for doing a bunch of extra things and stuff. This card has great implications, such as Bind Spirit by itself, being Bind Spirit, boom, flex up 4, reveal this, boom, 5 damage, powerful, just great, just super fun applications. Any type of like new hand card ability, then you do surprise. I had this thing, is great for like planning for players who like to plan and like to do lots of things. It is not great for players who don't have like the high mentality of like keeping track of what many things are going on, which is a detriment to the high level players. But it's not a bad thing because that depth is there for people who want to engage with it, but it's not something that everyone has to consider. So, and I think that's a very good strength of Final Strike as a design, as a game, is that for players who want to play this at the highest level, at like the tournament level, you have to have all these considerations. But for players who just want to play the game, it's just fun. It's just like, oh, boom, fight monsters, get points, cool, next turn go, boom, play weapon, fight monster, get points, boom, next turn go. For now, easy smooth game. And again, all the amount of content that comes out of this is just from playing one card a turn, and that's huge huge boon to what the simplicity of like what does that one card do for you every turn is so fun to watch. When every player takes a turn, that gets nail biting. You're like, what card did they play? What did the players see that I don't see when they make a strange play that I can't calculate, because they definitely saw something that I was not aware of or wasn't even thinking of at all. That's where the fun of Final Strike comes in. All right. Well, that's it, folks. That's my tier list here. I appreciate you coming in. If you want to join the Discord, take a look at Final Strike. I promise that we're still trying to get the game manufactured before Con of the North, which is in February here, 2024. But we'll do our best. It is a challenge, and something I've like had not to say have to like. No, I'll say yeah, it's a struggle. It truly is a struggle to like have to be a publisher and like um manage a full-time job and like have a relationship and have like everything takes spoons, everything takes energy to do. Finding time to even just make this video, I've been wanting to do it for a long time. Like this is like a week old. Like everyone else has made a tier list and so on and so forth, but I just haven't had like the mental energy to do it. But today has been really good. It's been very chill. So while this is a fun, creative thing to do, it still takes mental energy. It still takes spoons to do a thing. But no, the guys, I've been very blessed to have been able to make this game because of all of you, all your support. It's also been fun. It's been like fun to think about like many years ago. Like I happened to just meet Lane at an old event like many years ago at Glitch and at an IGDA game jam. But it's just been a fun happenstance that like all the stars have aligned to be able to make such great content. Thanks to the support of you guys. So appreciate it, and I guess we'll just keep working forward. We'll keep you posted if you have questions. If you disagree, jump into the Discord, give me your comments. Let me know what you think that what the hammers don't belong in S tier. Fight me. The hammers are S tier. You can't deny me that you're not playing the hammers. You're not playing those hammers, right? That's what makes them S tier. It's because you were definitely playing them. Unlike pikes. Pikes are always dropped. Rarely, seldom. by a competitive player. Everyone likes base game percentage. They play pikes, and then they realize like, oh, I should have done the cool thing instead. Like, yes, new card equal good. Better card equal good. All right, that's it for me, folks. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your night. Again, links in the description about joining the Discord. Links in the description to play. If you have Tabletop Simulator, this game's available there too. So, just free to join us, guys. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Good night.